Hello, and welcome to Quality Time, the podcast made just for Nebraska's early childhood providers who are growing every day through Step Up to Quality. I'm your host, Laura Cady. Whether you're tuning in during nap time or your drive home, we're so glad you're here. This season, we're doing something special. We're celebrating the journey. Not just the ratings, not just the paperwork, but the real stories behind the progress. Because Step Up to Quality isn't just a system, it's a process of growth. It's coaching conversations, late nights, adjusting lesson plans, rearranging environments, trying something new, reflecting on what worked, and sometimes rediscovering your joy in the work. Today, we're joined by Hayley Jackson Perez, an early childhood education expert with more than 16 years of experience supporting educators, families, and leaders in the field. Until recently, Hayley served as an extension educator, where she developed and delivered professional development for early childhood educators and leaders. Now she's taking a very exciting leap, launching her own educational consulting firm. I can't wait to hear more about that journey. Her work focuses on supporting children with challenging behaviors, coaching educators to strengthen their practice, and helping early childhood professionals reclaim joy and fulfillment in their work. Hayley, welcome to Quality Time. We are so glad you're here.
Hi, thank you. I am so excited to be talking with you today.
Me too. And honestly, based off of your bio, pretty sure we have a lot to talk about, and maybe we'll be best friends by the end.
I hope so. Here's to hoping, Laura.
Okay, so that was a lot, right? And if I missed anything, did I miss anything? Or are you feeling like,
no,
does that represent you? Okay, good.
I'm like, I want to tune in. Yes.
Okay, so first, let's start off with your connection with Step Up to Quality. So you've been connected to Step Up to Quality in meaningful ways. I would love to hear a little bit more about your connection to the program and what first drew you into this work.
Yes. So this was really fun. As I was thinking through this question and thinking through my career and my past, it was really interesting because I discovered some connections to Step Up to Quality that I hadn't previously. So my first experience with Step Up to Quality was in 2015, 2016, when I was the assistant director at the UNL Children's Center. So during that time, I was working alongside Callie Wilhite, who was our director, and we were going through Step Up to Quality for the first time. So as assistant director, I had already really experienced coaching and wanted to implement coaching within that school framework. But when I became assistant director, our big task at hand was Step Up to Quality. So if you don't know anything about UNL Children's Center, they are a unique program in the fact that we had 25 full-time staff that were full-time teachers, but then we also employed 150 student staff. And these were undergraduate students who went to the University of Nebraska, and they were getting a degree in something education related. So they worked at the UNL Children's Center as teacher aides in our classroom for not only a job, but it was on the job experience, right? Working with children, working with teachers. So I was tasked with training all of our teachers, not only our full-time, but our part-time teachers, with the ins and outs of the class assessment, Step Up to Quality, and really a general kind of orientation to interactions and best practices for working with children. So that was the first time that I really sat down and had to think through, how do I take content that I am familiar with and how do I teach adult learners? So I was responsible for creating trainings, delivering trainings, and then coaching student staff through some of those new strategies and tools that we were learning about. And that was my first really dip my toe into teaching, training with adult learners. So it's so funny now that that's what I do. That's my passion. That's the thing that I love the most, is training and working with teachers. But it's very funny that Step Up to Quality was my first experience into that. So we went through Step Up to Quality. And of course, I have to say this because we worked very, very hard. Everyone at the school, all of the administrators, all of the teachers, but we went through Step Up to Quality that summer, and we were the first school to get a 5 on our first time going through. And so I still have the video. We had a huge celebration for our teachers, but that was really my first kind of foray and really deep dive into Step Up to Quality. So I just thought it was a really funny connection where the Step Up to Quality really helped me discover my passion and my love for working with teachers and adult learners.
Well, that is a very perfect Experienced. I feel like you pretty much just nailed the first question. So, or do we keep going? No,
Yeah.
but seriously, I'm just thinking about how practical, first of all, that is to have students get
Mhm.
in and experience that before they make that big decision, because it is a big decision.
Mhm.
But also it sounds like you like challenges. If I'm hearing you, like,
Yes.
okay, sure, I'll create some sort of professional learning that can meet the needs of many different types of learners. That's
Yes. I
right.
don't like being bored. I like being challenged
Yeah,
for sure.
that's awesome. Well, so I want to give you a moment to share a little bit about your new adventure, if you're comfortable with
Yes.
that. So tell us a little bit
Absolutely.
about your new adventure. I would love to hear more.
Yes. Yeah. So in October, my contract with the University of Nebraska ended. And so I looked at my husband and I said, you know what's more fun than having a regular paycheck is let's get scared. Let's take a huge leap of faith. And we decided to start an educational consulting firm. So it's called, I had to keep it really simple, right? So that I wouldn't forget. It's called Hayley Jackson Perez Consulting. And that's all what I'm doing is exactly what I've been doing at Extension, but just under a different name. So I'm creating trainings for educators. I'm doing lots of different trainings. I've been at a lot of early childhood conferences. The amount of time I've spent on I-80 in the last couple
Yeah.
months have been all over. But yeah, I'm coaching with schools that are interested. I'm providing individualized professional development to schools based on the needs and based on what their teachers are really working with. And I'm doing some parent consultation as well. So that's been the fun new kind of leap of faith as well.
Ooh.
I've already had experience training teachers, keynote speaking, that kind of stuff, and coaching in early childhood classrooms. But now I'm taking on parent consultation as well. My imposter syndrome feels very large during that section of it.
That's how
But
you
I,
know. That's how you know you're doing the right thing. Is when
yes,
whenever that
yes.
pops up, you're like, okay, I'm onto something.
All right, let's do
Yeah.
it. And I tell the parents, I'm like, I've got a couple parent client consults right now. And we meet over Zoom and then I'll go to their house and it's basically on the spot coaching with parents. And it's just going through some strategies that we use in classrooms that can be really helpful at home as well. So one of the clients I'm working with, they've got an 18-month-old. Both of the parents are extremely intelligent, have never been around children, didn't have
Mm,
younger siblings, didn't have
sure.
younger cousins. And so we are just grappling together, us three adults are grappling with toddlerhood and what that
Yeah.
looks like and what are strategies we can use. So that's been super rewarding to see the light turn on for parents as well in that beautiful relationship between them and their child. So,
I love
so I'm
that.
doing a little bit of everything. It's been so fun. Yeah. And we're just kind of, again, taking a leap of faith to see what happens.
Well, I think that's great, especially for our listeners too, because sometimes when when we have guests on, it's like, okay, so I'm really interested, but how does that connect to the work that I'm doing? And so I think you have just
Yeah.
such a wealth of not only that personal experience, having gone through the process with Step Up to Quality, and then now more as the coach,
Yeah.
professional learning consultant lens. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So as you work alongside providers participating in Step Up to Quality, I'm really curious, what are you hearing from them right now?
Yes.
What's keeping them motivated to stay in the program? Just what's the vibe? What would you say?
Yes, yes. So to be honest with you, and I have been going in to different schools for the last 4 years, and the last about year, it's been this kind of noticeable shift for me when I walk into programs, and a lot of the programs I walk into feel kind of heavy.
Mm,
Um, Teachers are tired, we are stressed, we're burnt out, we're being asked to do more with less, and it feels like this kind of never ending, oh my gosh, right?
yeah.
So there is this like a visceral feeling of heaviness or stress when you
Hmm.
walk into the classroom, when you walk into the program. But what I've seen and what has been really cool is that the programs that I'm working with have been aware and noticing this shift, and they've been doubling down on building relationships and really trying to spark joy, right? And so
Yeah.
building relationships, supporting one another is really what we've been focused on in a few of the programs that I've been working with. And kind of this overall idea that, like, listen, the work we do is tough. I'm never going to sit here and say it's so easy to be an early childhood educator, because we've all had those days where you think, oh my gosh, is Panda Express hiring? Right? Because it's just
Yeah.
tough. And you're thinking, don't cry till you get to your car, right? I've had those days. I've walked in those shoes, absolutely. And what I've noticed from my schools is that they are really doubling down on how do we love on each other? How do we support each other? How do we create this level of connection and positive school climate so that even when the days are tough, we still look forward to coming in? Right.
Yeah.
And that can be done a ton of different ways. And one of the ways that I've seen it done in a really beautiful way is really, it sounds almost too simple to work, but it's really just spending time together. A lot of the schools I've been working with have been really creative with their scheduling in the fact that they are able to get their teachers together without children, without the hubbub of changing diapers, of reading the stories, of talking to parents, and just getting to be with teachers and breaking bread together, having a meal together, getting to know each other outside of who they are in the classroom, outside of teacher Laura, who is
Right.
Laura outside of that. And so that has been one really motivating factor and something that I've seen when schools notice this heaviness and then are actively trying to really lift their staff up to say, okay, I know it's tough. What can we do? How can I help?
Yeah. I really appreciate that as a former elementary teacher. I always really appreciated when an administrator could say, I see you. This is hard. We can do hard things. Like this is not easy work, because when that's kind of just washed over, you don't always feel maybe seen, or heard or valued. And so that's really cool. And also, I think it sounds like there's a lot of intention as well with these leaders that you're working with, because you don't always think to include parents
Yeah.
in the equation. It's like, well, we need staffing, or we need, there's always so many fires to put out. And so it's really
Yeah.
wonderful to hear that you're working with leaders who are also considering, how do we support the families? Because that's
Yeah.
where it starts. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, as you and I both know, we talked a little bit before recording, and growth doesn't always feel comfortable. And as you're taking this, jump into the unknown, I would love to hear your perspective as far as what impact have you seen from your trainings, whether in classrooms, learning environments, or even in providers' confidence, especially when it comes to that uncomfortability with
Yeah.
growing and trying new things and changing while things are heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Laura, it's funny. Everybody that listens to this is going to think that we conspired to do this. But
No.
one of the first things that I notice when I train and when I'm working with teachers and working with schools is that idea that they are validated, that I'm coming in and saying, this work is hard and it's tough. And so to be able to feel seen and to be able to attend a training and hear real world examples from me and my teaching
Yeah.
experience. And most of my examples, y'all, are when I did it wrong, right? So I'm
Hmm.
standing in front of you saying, so I thought it would be a really good idea to give a child a glass glitter calm down jar, even though I had never taught them how to use that glitter jar. I was so proud of myself. And what happened? He threw that glitter jar in my face, right? And rightfully so. I deserved that. And so one of the things that I've noticed is that just how good it feels to have somebody talking to you who has walked in your shoes,
Yeah.
who has done the hard stuff, who has gone home with poop on their hands because they've
Mm.
changed that many blowouts. And so that has been really great. And I've had teachers, and that's the feedback I've gotten as well. It feels like you have been in my classroom. It feels
Mhm.
like you know what we're going through. And y'all, that 15 years of experience, that's what it was. I was living and walking in the shoes of providers. So I've seen that. The other big thing that we focus on in a lot of my trainings is looking at behavior for what it is, right?
Mm.
A lot of the times our emotions get in the way of the way we're interpreting children's behavior. So we're looking at this child who's having a meltdown, who's really struggling, and we're thinking to ourselves, Johnny woke up today and he looked in the mirror and he was like, you know who I want to make cry today? Teacher Hayley. Right. And I say that facetiously, but it sometimes does feel like that in the
Yeah.
classroom. And so when we go through the training and we look at behavior as a form of communication and looking at that child who's having a meltdown and recognizing, taking ourselves out of it and recognizing this child is not having a good time. Kicking,
Yeah.
screaming, going boneless on the floor, that's not fun. Think about the last time you got really, really upset. The
Right.
last time we've been doing home renovations, not fun. I've been trying to put together furniture. I'm also not super great at that. The last time I got really upset about that, it reminded me this is what it feels like when a child has a meltdown in a classroom. You feel out of control. For me, it feels like my brain turns red and I'm just
Yeah.
not thinking logically. That's not fun. So any child that's experiencing that or behaving in that way is not having a good time, right? And so one of the things that we focus on in my trainings is looking at behavior as a form of communication. And not only that, but also taking into our account our own emotions and being able to regulate our own behavior and emotions so we can see that behavior as the child needing help as opposed to the child doing something to make your day miserable.
Right.
And that shift in your brain can really help that. And I talk about changing your lens, right? So looking at it from a different lens and putting on a different lens where you're looking at that child who's needing help, that feels a lot different. And it helps you see the situation for what it is, and also helps you from your own perspective to say, what can I do to support this child right now? What can I do to see this child for everything they are? And how can I help them in this moment? And that sometimes takes some of the anger and some of the emotion away from challenging behaviors.
It's true. Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard. It's hard though, okay? Because I I can tell you
Mhm.
some of the work that I have done on myself in the last few years outside of the classroom has been pretty eye-opening just to understand some of this is overstimulation. Some of this is not feeling grounded. Your nervous system is firing and it's not grounded. And how do I support so I would love to hear your thoughts on, because we hear that all the time, but really
Mhm.
putting that into practice, it
Yes.
requires a lot of effort. And so do you have where do you start with that?
Yes. So you are absolutely right, right? Because we can't talk about challenging behaviors unless we talk about self regulation and our nervous system and making sure that we are regulated, and then also supporting the child's regulation. For me, what helped me when I first started learning about all of this, and this was all thanks to Dr. Holly Hatton and Chime through
Mm.
early childhood extension educators. Shout out to the Chime program. We're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about mindfulness and self regulation. For me, the first thing was awareness. So getting back in and present into my body to feel aware and notice when I was starting to get upset or when I was starting to get dysregulated. And I do an activity in one of my trainings where we do a guided meditation where we take ourselves back to being in the classroom when a child is really struggling or having a meltdown. And what I want participants to focus on is what sensations are they feeling in their body? What cues is your body giving you to say, hey, Hayley, ooh,
Hmm.
we might need to take a deep breath. Ooh, we're starting to get real upset or we're
Yeah.
starting to get frustrated, because we do a really great job, especially in early childhood, of just masking and powering through, right? Because we just have to get on to the next thing. So there were lots of years, and I've got lots of examples in my own teaching practice where I was dysregulated and I didn't realize it. And it took one of my co teachers or one of the other lead teachers
Mm.
who I had a really trusting relationship with to come into my classroom and say, Teacher Hayley, I think you need to take a break. And we had a strong enough relationship where I said, Are you sure? And she looked at me, she said, Hayley, I think you need a break. To be able, and then it wasn't until 5 minutes out of the classroom where I felt my body start to relax. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize that I was tense. And so
Right.
awareness is the first thing. And then getting more strategies and learning more strategies on what to do in the moment to keep yourself regulated. This is the name of the game. And oh my gosh, when I first started working on my own, intentionally working on my own self regulation, it was like that scene in Step Brothers where I said, it's so nice to have these skills at 32. It would have been a lot better at 7. I would have loved to have been able to regulate my emotions
Right.
at 13, because if you know anything about my story, I was a walking challenging behavior growing up. I was in school
Mhm.
suspended, out of school suspended. You name it, I was in trouble for it. These skills would have gotten rid of so much of that. These skills would have prevented so many of those things in my childhood. And so
Yeah.
when I'm working with teachers, that's what we're talking about, is self-regulation and really being able to heal our own things so that we can work with children and be fully present to support them working through whatever they're going through.
That's good stuff. And of course, immediately I'm thinking, Yep, Laura, you probably just need a snack. You,
Right? Am I
you,
tired?
I need, one of my friends said, anything can be solved with a sandwich and a nap, honestly. So for us, for the kids, but it's true that self-regulation it, it is truly simple, but it requires us to just take a second and take a deep breath and reflect. And so I think as much as we can model that to our littles, because it is something that they can learn younger, and they might not be learning that at home. But what an opportunity for them to get to learn that with their trusted caregivers.
Yes, absolutely. It gives me like hope when I get really despondent and I get really depressed about the world around us. One thing that gives me hope is how many educators and how we are focusing on teaching children self-regulation,
Yeah,
because you and I all know a handful of adults who do not have the skills for self-regulation, right? So the
right.
fact that now we're starting to teach our 2-year-olds, our 3-year-olds, our 4-year-olds these skills, it gives me so much hope for the next generation that they are
Yeah.
going to be able to better regulate themselves way better than I was, way better than you were, to think about where we can go as a community having these skills.
That's very true. Well, and you touched on, things are heavy sometimes. We do feel depressed sometimes. And sometimes it's not just our job that's stressing us out. It's watching the news, or our relationships. There's so much happening. And so I'm curious, why do you think that joy is such an important part of what is making those, I don't know, just kind of making the work. I don't know how to ask this. Like, why do you think
Yeah.
joy is such an important part of what makes a program truly high quality?
Yes. Oh, and I love this. And again, anybody that knows me in real life knows that that is one of my focus words is joy. So when I was thinking about this question, the first thing that popped into my head, and spoiler alert, I'm a huge nerd, but my favorite TED Talk, because I have a favorite TED Talk, is Dr. Rita Pierson. Every Child Deserves a Champion. If you
Hmm.
have not seen that TED Talk, please go watch it. Have I forced my husband to watch this TED Talk with me on a Friday night? I sure have. It's fun being married to me. Okay, anyways,
Every
in
child deserves a champion.
Every Child Deserves a Champion by
Yep.
Dr. Rita Pierson. And in that TED Talk, she says, teaching and learning should bring great joy. And I have that in a poster above my computer in my office, because I really truly believe that the act of teaching, the act of learning, of being with children should all be focused around joy. I recently, this past weekend, I was in Laurel, Nebraska. Spoke at the Cedar County Early Childhood Conference, and we were talking about literacy and language development and play-based ways to focus on literacy and language development. And as we were talking, one of the first things I said, tell me about your earliest literacy memory. What was your favorite book growing up? Talk to me about that memory. And one by one, as people started to raise their hand and share their experiences, it was all about relationships. It was, my kids love this really silly book that my husband reads to them at night, and every night they read it and they giggle, and it's this fun memory before they go to bed. Or this older woman said, my favorite book growing up was, there's a monster at the end of this book, and I read it with my mom, and my mom would do silly voices, and it was just this, really beautiful interaction memory from growing up. Even me, the memory I shared was my mother was away from home a lot, right? And so she worked really, really hard when I was growing up. But my earliest literacy memory is sitting in her lap, reading Hop on Pop, and
Mm,
having this wonderful, her arms wrapped around me. And this, I remember the feeling of
yeah.
feeling so loved. And so I say that whole story to say, at the foundation of what we do in early childhood, it's interactions. It's connecting with another human, and it's building relationships, even in the smallest of ways. And for me, that is joy. And for
Hmm.
the educators that I work with, getting to connect with another child, getting to connect with another teacher or their parent, that is joy. And so when we can look at and boil down our practice into connection, connection and joy go hand in hand. And when we see really high quality programs, we see a great deal of connection. And
Yeah.
so with that, we see that joy. And so that's the connection that I see between joy and early childhood.
That's good. You're making me think. Yesterday I was at the office and one of our colleagues, it's parent teacher conferences. So her little first grader came to the office with her. And when you're talking about that, the connection, right? So I immediately think about how easy it is to connect, but also how easy it is to not connect, right? And so let's say I'm in my emails or I'm on my phone and I'm going here but this first grader, so I used to teach first grade. It's
Yeah.
my sweet spot. I love that age.
Yes, girl.
And so her name was Reagan, and she was, I just was engaging with her and I was asking her about, what is she working on and what is she learning in first grade and all this. And then I asked her, do you know any jokes? And she happened to have just gone to the book fair and she had a book of jokes. And then she became my shadowed, like for literally the next hour, her mom was like, I'm so sorry. I know you need to get some work done. I'm like, no, I'm still working. I'm still emailing all that. But there were 50 adults in the office, and it just reminded me that it's really easy to ask some questions or do you know any jokes or that, but also most people are just kind of, it just reminds me of like, as simple as it seems to connect. Again, it's back to that. It requires that intention and that want to connect with the kiddo or the parent or whoever. And honestly, like the jokes, I was just looking through my notebook and, I have a really good one that she wrote in my notebook that I'm going to read it.
You have to share it now, Laura.
Where does a killer whale go to get braces?
I don't know.
To the orthodontist.
That's so funny.
Again, I noticed in my entire body, I was a little stressed out when I got to the office and I had a lot of things to do. And I noticed that wow, the stress levels are down. I'm laughing, I'm smiling, I feel joyful. And so it's just always good to be reminded of that because it doesn't take much. A little joke, a little laugh.
Yes, absolutely. Laura, I feel like you and I are similar when we go to parties. So when I go to hang out with my friends and all of my friends have children, after about an hour, they're like, where's Hayley? And then they look down in the basement and I'm with all of the kids, right? We're like building a fort. I'm like, hold on, I'll be up in a little bit.
Either the kids or the animals.
It's the kids or the dogs.
Yeah. And I'm a cat lady, but I love the dogs. But yes, they're like, where is she? Oh, she's on the floor, like talking to the cat over there.
She's fine. Just let her be.
This is normal. So this is a new season for us. And so I usually would ask a question I like to end on a question about, hey, so what's your favorite book? And you already mentioned that a little bit. So, but I want to try something new. So I'm a big fan of Amy Poehler's podcast and she's just wonderful. And she brings out the best in people. And one of the questions she always ends with is, we're living in a crazy time right now. So what is something that you're doing to make you laugh? Or is there something you're watching, listening to, reading? Like what is making you laugh these days?
Yes. So it's so funny because as I was thinking about this question, I was thinking to my head, like, well, what am I listening to? And I am listening to Amy Poehler's Good Hang because that does. And I spent a lot of time on I-80. But one thing that my husband and I are really trying to be more intentional about in 2026 is getting off of our phones, being present, and good God, not doom scrolling. And y'all, it's hard. It is hard, especially when you get into those habits. So we have been making a point of putting our phones in our bedroom at night and then doing stuff just together and hanging out. And I think this was before we were recording, but I was telling you, Laura, that my husband, this is so corny, but he's my best friend. We haven't been married that long. So everybody says that that'll change. I hope it doesn't because he's my favorite human alive. But what has been making me laugh is just doing stuff with him. We don't have children of our own. And so we have just been like trying to pick up hobbies and try new things. Our big thing, so we love doing like puzzles or Legos. But recently we have moved all the furniture in our living room and we've been playing really heated games of balloon volleyball at night.
That is fun.
And I know, and I've got big windows in our living room. I'm sure our neighbors are like, good God, what is going on? But that being more present with my husband and just playing balloon volleyball and doing silly things like that. We've also been teaching our nieces and nephews how to play left, right, center, which is a fun dice game. But yeah, so that's really what's been making me laugh and what's been making me feel good when I feel sad or when I start to watch the news too much is really just being present with the people that I love and trying to have some like good old fashioned screen-free fun.
Well, as an early childhood educator and coach and all that, it really it really feels great to hear that playing is
Yes.
the way that you are staying happy and staying grounded. That makes me happy.
Yeah, yes.
Is there anything else like, I just think as humans, we're always looking for little tips and tricks. And is there any other ways that you feel like, if you were to reach out to our audience and thinking about all the people that are doing the hard work right now, are there any other little last remaining tips, tricks, ways to support themselves?
Yes. One thing that I talk a lot about in my trainings when, we have those mornings, and like you said, Laura, you woke up yesterday, you got to the office, and you could just tell in your body you were stressed, you had a lot going on, maybe your brain was spinning a little faster than it usually does. And I always talk about when I become aware of, maybe I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed and I'm feeling kind of cranky. One of the tips that I have is that it sounds nuts, but I will talk to myself and I will say, okay, girlfriend, you're cranky. There's no real reason for you to be cranky. We got to get rid of this. We got to take a deep breath, and whatever we're going to do, one of my favorite strategies is to just choose a song that has been giving me a lot of joy and put that on and just move your body. And you're going to look ridiculous. It's fine. That's the point. Or I do this in the car a lot too. So if you ever see me driving down the street and I am like dancing like a maniac in my car, I'm probably trying to give myself an attitude adjustment. But it's just like turning that song on, right? Like Save Us Beyonce, and turning it up loud and just trying to
dance party with the kids too.
Having a dance party. That is one of the best ways, and really just kind of shaking some of that negative energy out of your body. That is one that I do almost every day just to kind of reset the energy and kind of get started on the right foot.
That's great. Well, I don't really want to end, but every time it's like, Laura, it's 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes. As it turns out, I do enjoy a good conversation. And this has been a good hang, Hayley.
It has been a good hang. Now that we're best friends. Okay.
Honestly, what I'm taking away, I really liked what you said about doubling down on relationships, supporting one another, acknowledging that this work is hard, but that if we do it together and support each other, and when we need a little reminder, like, hey, go take a break, hey, go have a snack, just being there for each other. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. I'm really excited for what's coming for you. And I just want to say thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And also, and I'm sure, Laura, that you say this all the time too, but to the providers that are listening,
yes,
I am so, so grateful and so thankful for the work that you do every day. You come in and you are building the brains and you are building the architecture of our next generation of community members. And you are building it with love and empathy and compassion. And our world and our community is a better place because of the work that you do every day. And we're just so grateful. So I just want to end there saying we're so thankful for all of just the gratitude that I have for all of the amazing early childhood educators in our state. We are so lucky to have each and every one of you doing the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. You took the words out of my mouth. I know, seriously, that got to bring it back full circle. Thank you so much, Hayley.
Yes.
So I think what we're taking away, quality does not mean perfection. It means progress. It means reflection. It means support. And it absolutely includes joy. So Hayley, thank you so much for sharing your story, your insight, and your heart with us today. Your work is also making a difference across Nebraska. And again, just very excited to hear where you go next.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you.
So to our listeners, thank you for the work that you're doing every single day, whether you're just beginning your Step Up to Quality journey, or if you've been a part of this for years, your commitment really matters. Your growth matters and your joy matters. Join us next time as we continue sharing the real stories behind the stars. Until then, keep growing, keep reflecting, keep finding your joy in your journey. Bye-bye.